Hello there. Welcome back to Charles Circle, and welcome back to Captain of Industry. Last time, we got our feet under us. We set up research, basic food and materials productions, and started extracting the island's resources. We're almost entirely self-sustaining, with the exception of copper, so it's time to zoom back out and start thinking about the bigger picture again. I'm going to surge our construction part production with Unity, while we accumulate a supply while we quickly talk about our future base layout. Now, it's not a big deal to delete and rebuild in this game, right? So for example, if we go to build another of these smelters, you see it costs 60 construction parts. If I go to delete this, you'll see that in now green text, we will be refunded 48 construction parts. So that's an 80% recovery rate. But it does take time and trucks if we wanted to delete and rebuild over here. So while you definitely don't have to plan things to death, there is some value in being intentional from the start. With that in mind, let's remind ourselves, using L, how the resources look on this map. As you can see, we have kind of a ring of resources around the edge here, and a good amount of free space here around our core base. Or rather, we will once we clear it of trees and flatten it. You can see we still have these contour lines in certain places that we'd like to sort of resolve before we start building out more permanent structures, right? So this means that it probably makes sense for us to build a centralized manufacturing area here, which will supply from our mines by truck, and eventually by train. The alternative is a distributed model, meaning we would build, for example, copper smelters out here by the copper mine, and then transporting the finished product, this copper, to wherever it's needed. That's totally valid, and I've played that way before too, but centralized offers a couple advantages in the longer run. First, it's future-proof. For example, we are going to run out of this iron mine. It doesn't look like it anytime soon, but it will happen eventually. And that would mean that we would have to move on to the next iron mine, which is considerably further away. We would then have to either rebuild our entire smelting setup at the next mine, and then the next mine, and then the next mine, or just be transporting that ore directly in the first place. So why not just do it right away? Second, it'll mean that we only have to move coal, which is used, as a reminder, as an input into all of the smelting recipes. Iron, as we've already seen, but it will be a part of copper as well. So we have to either take coal out to every single one of these mining facilities, or we could just bring it to that centralized location and fuel everything directly from there. Much simpler. Finally, it also means that all of our finished goods will be in the same area, making secondary manufacturing steps much more efficient. For example, right, when we make mechanical parts out of iron, we either have to do that out here at that distributed smelting setup and then bring it all over here, or when we want to build vehicle parts, we could just have it right next door to where we're creating those mechanical parts anyway. So it makes our secondary manufacturing a lot more efficient. Okay, that was a lot of talking. Time to start doing. What does that overall design mean that we should do now? First, there's a whole bunch of trees in the way, right? So let's ramp up our deforestation efforts. First thing I'm going to do is go to our vehicles depot and triple the number of tree harvesters we have working for us. That also means if we're adding 2, we're going to need to add 4 trucks to support them. No problem there. But we have a further bottleneck in our tree deforestation process, and that is eventually there's nowhere to put our wood. Right now, the only valid place to drop wood is either directly into a coal maker or, as you can see, directly into our construction parts assembler. That's not really ideal, and we don't want that to be our bottleneck. So what we're going to do is create a little bit of storage, probably out here, somewhere where all the trees are, roughly speaking, so that we have somewhere else to put it. I would also like to know if this ever gets full. By the way, in between filming the first episode and this episode, the devs, as I said, very responsive, very active, have put out another patch. And that patch gives you the ability to decide whether or not it gives you a further tool over the interaction between sort of pipe input output with your storages. This was a relatively recent addition on whether or not storage would put out to belts or pipes relative to how much is in here. This is now the same mechanic from the other direction. You only receive from belts or pipes. So again, active development, very cool to see. That's why it looks a little bit different than the first episode. That aside, we will let this get going. This should help our forestry industry. And I think where we want them to focus, I think we're gonna build our sort of production out here. And maybe with that in mind, we will clear space here to begin. The other part is maybe we shouldn't be putting this exactly here if we're going to build. Cut, paste. Let's do it here. Probably a little better. Okay. So that'll take a moment to spin up properly. But there he goes. Let's give him 2 trucks. We'll just let these backfill. And he'll get going here as well. Wonderful news. All right, so that should get our trees going quickly. Continue to get refugees and their associated loot in the background, by the way. This is why we're comfortable putting off copper. So that's good news. All right, what next? Well, so we need to clear the space. We also need to level the space. Remember, again, if we want to use this area, we can't have it be hill. So if we wanted to expand our city out here, can't. We have a conflict because of the terrain level. So we need to spin up a terraforming crew. What does that look like? Well, it looks a lot like a mining crew. What we'll do is we'll take a mine control tower. Let's place it here. This one will probably get moved around a bunch, but what we'd like to do with this is take this area and flatten it. We'll have him work, let's just say, all the way up to here for now. It'll take a while, but that's all right. What we want to do is turn this pristine wilderness into a flat hellscape so that we can expand our town and industry. So that means we'll need to give another excavator and trucks, and heck, ideally, a second one to really speed things along. And that'll help us flatten this area out. So one of the things we're still researching is terrain leveling. I'll explain how we'll use that here in a second. But that is somewhere between, or rather actually incorporates both the mining and dumping designations. So let's talk about that for a second. Mining with M allows you to dig down into the terrain. Dumping with Z allows you to pile stuff up onto the terrain. Now we've unlocked it. Flattening with N allows you to do both in the same area. And so what we're going to do instead of our previous dumping designation, which by the way drove me crazy while I was editing, but I totally did not line these up and now we have this big lump. Great, good news. We'll fix that too. We will flatten everything in this area. And so anything that's higher than we want it to be, gonna get knocked down. Anything that's lower than we want it to be, gonna get filled up. The mining tower will also, now that we're adding this to this area, give us a little bit more control over what we throw here. Of course, we're fine with dumping everything still, so no worries. But if we decide, for example, okay, we're done dumping waste, we have a better, more ecologically friendly way to take care of it, we'll say no more dumping waste, and we'll put it into an incinerator or whatever it is that we've unlocked to move forward. Cool. So that's good. We'll have that start to build here as well. And once our excavators get going, we will be able to start the terraforming process as well. We're okay on trucks, really. It's good practice when you add an excavator, you're going to give it 2 trucks, just to sort of backfill to make sure that you are still keeping your total truck capacity where you want it to be. But we're doing okay here. I think what I might do is move these to the end, so to speak. So we're still going to make these extra trucks, but we are going to make them at the end. I do wish you could rearrange this build queue a little bit more intuitively rather than deleting and rebuilding at the end. Maybe there's a better way to do that. Let me know in the comments if there is. I am not aware of one, but hey, I said in the first one, I'm not an expert at this game quite yet, so let me know. Okay, with that going in motion here, the other thing we need to do is find our other tree harvester. Where did he go? He's out here somewhere. There he is. But he doesn't have any trucks. Gotta take care of that real quick. We gave our other friend 3. Let's do it. We will pull this back if we need to, but right now we really want to cruise through our deforestation. So let's allocate our trucks accordingly. Cool. Our terraforming infrastructure is set up. We still need to build our vehicles, but that's fine. That's going. The other thing we can do is repair our shipyard, which means we can get our boat going. That's wonderful. It'll cost us 100 construction parts, as you can see, but good news, we've got that finally. Another reason that we've been cranking through our production here. We will, later in this episode, reinforce and build a proper construction part manufacturing setup. We are going to wait until we have construction parts 2 so that we are able to set up a bigger, better, manufacturing area that has both of these parts. So we are, just like we were with copper, pushing the investment down the road so that we can do a bigger, better version of it once things are a little bit more advanced. So, in the meanwhile, we'll just keep cranking our Unity in this poor, hardworking little assembler. Good for him. Cool. So, what should we do next? I think the other thing I'm going to do is help out with our wastewater dumping over here, rather than every single time one of these fills up with wastewater having to have a truck come over before it's able to do anything else. As you can see, we're not able to make any more rubber right now because we're full. We're gonna dump everything into this storage, and a truck only has to come over when the storage is full. Much more efficient. So, we will unpause and allow this construction to happen. It's not an incredibly high priority, so we'll just let it happen whenever the trucks find the time. But we'll let that get going too. Finally, we never actually finished getting our mine for coal up and running. So let's do that real quick. Reminder, this is our coal. We would like to pull it out of the ground instead of burning trees. It's a little counterproductive because we're trying to go through trees right now, but the coal makers are just, they're such a waste, unfortunately. They're the worst early game technology version of coal that you have, and it's, I think better to move off as quickly as you reasonably can. So let's do that. Let's set up the mine here. Again, with M, we're going to set up a mining designation here. I'm going to press F to make it flat. The first thing I tend to do is flatten the area, and then we'll come back and we will dig into the ground as necessary. But let's just start here. The other thing we're going to do, as I said, reminder, we want to, at the level of the excavator, tell it what to focus on, coal. And we did already say that our ore sorter will accept coal. Okay, so with the coal mine designated, and these folks hopefully in motion, there we go. That should start to make things a little bit easier on our basic industry here, so that everything's not bottlenecked by coal makers. That's great news too. So, now what should we do? Well, our terraforming excavator seems to be ready, or the first one at least. Let's do that. Here's one. And a pair of trucks for him. Great. I think same thing here. I'm going to go ahead and move the trucks to the back here. We'll get our second excavator up and running instead. All right, look at this, our shipyard, no longer damaged. Let's set this so that our shipyard remains full on diesel. We just took it from here and put it into the diesel storage specifically in the shipyard integrated. But that should make it so that our ship, when it comes back, refuels quickly. Let's load a crew, because we have to. Let's use the boat. This is fun. Our maiden voyage, or I guess maiden since crashing. There's really no way to know which one of these is best. Let's just start exploring. Very fun. More refugees. Great. We probably need to start keeping an eye on housing here. We can still handle a couple more rounds of refugees, but we are going to have to pause the beacon at some point, and or build more housing. But for now, I think we're doing okay on workers, so we don't need to prioritize that quite yet. You could just have them to have them, but again, it costs upkeep in terms of, well, for now, just food. People cost food. They generate trash. That's manageable, but in the longer run, we're going to end up, providing a lot more stuff for our populace, and so therefore, it'll be more important to kind of only have the population that we need. This is the downside of my, well, let's just build the trucks later approach. We are a little low on trucks now, but no worries, they're coming. Vehicle part production is starting to be a bottleneck for us. We've burned through, as I said we would eventually, we have burned through our starting supply. And so what we're doing is just making them ourselves. That's all good. That's all good. Maybe we will boost this as well. You can see we're starting to burn through our Unity here, but we have enough for a while. Okay. Let's talk about what it'll take to make construction parts 2. This is going to require electronics. We make some electronics. We only make them here as an input for assembly 1. It's probably worth getting a single dedicated electronics production going. This will also probably be temporary, but I think it's worth adding another assembly here, basically. So what does that take? It takes rubber and it takes copper. What we could do is put it out here, but this is a very temporary setup too. I think we're just going to place it here for now. And we'll set this to be a dedicated manufacturer of electronics. Great. Location explored. We've gone out here. We've found some loot. More vehicle parts. Timely. Again, additional copper, rubber, and iron scrap. So, great. That's wonderful. Let's keep going. How about here? Eventually our ship will run out of fuel. It'll have to come back. We're going to have to make more diesel to keep fueling it. We're going to burn through this, which is why it's important that we got this production going. Out of trees. Beautiful. That really did accelerate. Good news. Good news. Let's just keep going here. And, yeah, for now we're just going to dig our way to the coal mine. Try to take care of everything here so we don't, we free up the space to mine more freely. And then, well, we'll just see. We'll just see. This is going to be our bottleneck. Yeah, we only have one here already. Let's make another. Let's just do it. I'm going to quickly deliver it. It is more important to me that we clear the space right now than anything else. How's this going? Well, terraforming's going well. As you can see, it's digging out the pile that I accidentally told it to make. in the first episode. Wonderful. So, fine. A good start. But we do have this excavator still being constructed. We need more vehicle parts. Okay. No worries. Our boat will be back with a few soon. But until then. The other thing I'm going to do here, this toggle will clear out intentionally, if possible, if there is another storage, bits that are currently in the shipyard. I'm going to toggle that now because as we start bringing back loot, the boat will dump it into the shipyard, and the shipyard will get full, which will mean that the boat is full, which will mean that we can't get more loot. So it'll be important to start pushing this out soon. Construction parts 2. Wonderful. Oh, good. I forgot to unpause this. So it's time to make a construction parts 2 manufacturer. Very basic. We're going to create a proper one in relatively short order here. Once we have belts, balancers, and lifts, let's get all of this queued up. These are important tools that add conditional logic, which will allow us to create much more complex and therefore permanent setups. So those are important researches I would like to get going as well. New location, a lot of scrap, a lot of good stuff. We'll take it. And he's coming back. He'll come back automatically when he's out of fuel. She'll come back automatically when she's out of fuel. The other thing we should probably do, especially while we still have some diesel piled up, I like to, as I mentioned in the first episode, have our diesel storage, or at least a part of it, here, so that, keep it full, so that it can directly refuel the shipyard and therefore the boat, as well as our power. How is our power doing? Yeah, we are okay. So our consumption, you can see, is mostly just lapped and assemblers. We are nowhere near consuming all of the production that we are capable of. This generator will only burn diesel to match the amount of power that we need. So that's good. It's not just lighting it on fire. But we are at like 50% less of our capacity, or about 50% on average, depending on who's up and running at a given moment. Oil pumps, that's a good point. Okay, cool. So that's good to see. Let's allow all of this to happen as well. Okay, this is our electronics. Oh, nope, this is our electronics. This needs to be changed. Copy paste. Needs to be changed to construction parts 2. This is going to start, obviously, to consume, as you can see, 2-to-1, our basic construction parts. We still need these, by the way. So it's going to be even more important that we get a more robust production going here shortly. But we are going to run on fumes for a little bit longer. How's this all going? Oh yeah, we get a reward for this. Wonderful. I will take that. 50 construction parts, right as I'm complaining about not having any construction parts. We'll definitely take that. Copper we're still gonna wait on. That's okay. And yeah, this is full. This is full. Do we make another one? I mean, it's really our bottleneck here, isn't it? I think we're going to. It's 30 construction parts every time, but this is important. Okay. Good. Our maintenance is still working just fine. We have more refugees coming in. Good. Vehicle parts is really... yeah, see, this is the issue, right? There is not enough space in our shipyard for all of our loot, including the vehicle parts we desperately want. So we need to push these out, right? Iron scrap goes directly in here. As we can see, our blast furnace is cruising through it, but it has to be supplied manually, which is not super ideal. So the other thing that should help is we should push this diesel out of here and into here, ideally. But our trucks, yeah, our trucks are busy. So, catch-22. We can't make more trucks because we don't have vehicle parts, because they're stuck in the dock, because we can't move stuff out of the dock. Cool. It'll take care of itself, but slowly. We could pull back truck capacity from somewhere else that is currently overusing it, like, say, our tree harvesters. Since they're just sitting there, I think what we'll do is we'll knock one truck off each of these. Should smooth out the issue here as well, rather than having them sprint to fill up one of these and then just sit still until we can afford to make another. Let's dial it back like that. Should be helpful. How's this going? Good. We've almost undone my episode 1 mistake. You love to see it. But there's a lot of work to be done there. As you can see, they're starting to chip away at what we're actually here for. And even though it's a pretty quick trip to just dump it in the ocean, it takes a while to dig it all up. So that is good to see, but definitely a long-term investment. And, you know, that pace is why we're making another one. Oh boy. Yeah, it's real mad at me about trucks right now, huh? I think I'm gonna crank up this priority because that is really the single biggest issue we have right now, is that our shipyard is full. And as you can see here, this little blue-gray bar indicates that a truck is on its way to come drop stuff off or fill stuff up. That's the green bar here, right? So we are now removing, with the gray bar, fuel from the shipyard and placing it here. In fact, I think what we'll do, we no longer need to bring this in by truck, actually, is a fair point, because it automatically fuels from here. We're just keeping this full, which will downstream keep this full. The amount of diesel in the shipyard is dropping, which is great. It means that stuff is coming off of here, but not all of it, not fast enough. And gosh, I hate the vehicle part starts with V. Is that why it's at the end? No, not really. But it is at the end, which is a bummer. The other thing this is doing is keeping our boat at home when it could be out exploring. Too bad. I think we are going to create more storage here too, just to empty out our dock. You know what? Actually, the better place to put this, for now, we want to put copper and rubber into this assembly. I'll connect these with belts once we get them, but at least this will help empty out our shipyard in the meanwhile. So cool. So this is happening. That's good news. Which means that this is unloading, which means, ideally, yeah, this is unloading a bit. It's a start. Let's get the rubber going here. And you know what? In fact, I actually think it's pretty reasonable to just pause our rubber production for now. Because if we have so much of it that we can't actually empty our shipyard, we definitely don't need to be making that worse by maintaining the cost of running this machine and filling it up even further. We are making vehicle parts. Good, we finally have our excavator. He's probably been sitting there for a second, hasn't he? Let's do that. Give him another couple pals. Actually, at this distance, especially with our trucks being busy right now, it's really not hard for them to go to here. I think 3 is okay for now. We'll keep an eye on it. And as we said, we are filling this up pretty quick, which is nice. Did we still have some here too. Great, so we haven't even really burnt through everything. This is getting better, this is getting better. We just have a lot of stuff in here. Good problem to have. Good problem to have. The other thing we could do, because this is going to take electronics, this is going to make electronics, but this is going to take electronics, and we have some electronics in here. We could build a storage here. But let's call it electronics, not copper. Okay, now it's noticing we're running out of houses. This is what we were talking about earlier. We are going to have more people than housing soon, and we don't need more people, so we can pause the beacon. Not only does this keep us from overfilling, it also gives us back the unity that it costs to run it, which is a lot. One whole unity, that's going to take us from draining down to building back up at the exact same rate. So we'll take that. For sure, we'll take that. The other thing that we can think about doing, speaking of unity, is look at some edicts. So, let's build a captain's office. What is a captain's office? The captain's office is your HQ, nominally. Might move this later too, but for now, no, it's a terrible spot. It intersects with our housing, potentially. Let's put it, I don't know, right here, as an extension of our shipyard, more or less. So, why are we building this? You now have access to population and industrial edicts. Oh, and conveyor belts, nice. What does this mean? So, you can trade unity to increase things like population growth. You can spend unity to reduce the amount of fuel that your vehicles are consuming. This is powerful later on when you have a ton of vehicles. Similarly, maintenance. Everything costs maintenance. You can spend unity, just burning one, about the same as the beacon, right? Exactly the same as the beacon. You can reduce your maintenance need by 15%. As you level up in tech, you can, intensify your investments. So you can spend more unity to get more maintenance cost reduction. Definitely diminishing returns eventually, but at the same time, you end up generating more and more unity over time in the game. So, first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to generate more unity by increasing food rations. We have a ton of potatoes. We are continuously making potatoes. We have so many potatoes that they are jamming up our farm. This won't always be true, but it is true for now. If we increase our food consumption, right now you can see that we require 9, so it's really not a big deal to move that up a little bit. We will be able to generate additional unity. Of course, that won't be active until our captain's office is constructed. So let's prioritize it. But there's nothing else being constructed right now because we just finished these storages too. So, good news. That'll be another good thing to invest in. We will appreciate that unity when we inevitably find ourselves in a jam at some point. We are slowly draining our shipyard. My goodness. Yeah. It's taking quite a bit here, isn't it? All right. Well, if I had more construction parts, I would build more storages to empty, but we really don't have that, and we won't have that until we can build a proper setup, which we still need belts and balancers for. But we could build some conveyor belts to lighten the load on our trucks. I did say we would build a few of those, for example, here. Let's show them off. So, 2 types of conveyor belts. Basically, it's what kind of good are you trying to transport. So, same as storages, right? Flat, they look like this box, versus loose, right? They look like this. This has sort of coal or sand, stuff like that. Stuff that makes a bit of a mess, I suppose. Unit storage, flat. You can put it onto a flat belt. Those are how those two line up. So let's connect this to this. this to this, and now when we make electronics, we don't have to get a truck to drive here to pick up a load and then drop it off immediately. That should help our trucks a decent amount. We'd like to do this a lot of places. We're not going to do it everywhere. But another good spot is here. Right now, our iron just piles up in the machine and requires a truck to move it over here. Not only does that take like truck effort and therefore diesel, by the way, it also reduces the amount of time that our metal casters can work because they end up full. They end up jammed up until a truck can get to them, particularly when things are busy. So it's really helpful to add these at the beginning and end of production lines, essentially. And in fact, I'm going to use some Unity here because our trucks are very busy and auto-construct it. Goes up about the same rate as this. So these are great. They do take parts 2 and rubber. Things to be aware of. This is also why we connected these directly, right? Looks terrible. This little red indicator, which just means that we've obstructed this other input, drives me nuts visually, so don't worry. We'll end up rebuilding all of this in a much more aesthetically pleasing way soon. Where else can we make small belt investments that will pay off our truck's sort of input requirements? I'm not sure there are any obvious ones right now, to be frank. So, right, we make both of these here, and we use both of these here, but the issue is if we put this all in one belt, let's say we only have access to iron for a while, we would jam this belt up with mechanical parts, we would back up the maintenance depot with mechanical parts, and then we would never get the electronics here that we need, or we would still have to do it by truck. This is one of the reasons I don't like doing this mixed production in the same assembler, but we will as well adjust this so that this has eventually 2 distinct inputs for each of those requirements. Heck, maybe now's a fine time to do that. How are we? Nope, we are still right on the margin for construction parts. But this is an important one. This will be very nice to have. What else is going on here? Thanks for the tutorial. The last group of refugees before we paused our beacon still wants us to make copper. We're still going to make copper. And we're out of trees to harvest. Whoopsies. That's not what you want. Where do we want to prioritize now? I think we want to create a bit of a path here to our coal mine and give our coal mine a bit of room to work, right? Remember, we're eventually going to be taking out everything here, and we don't really have the room to do that quite yet, so let's give ourselves that. Wonderful. Good, good, good. All right, and which pickup is mad? Why are you mad? You have coal. You have nowhere to go. Oh, this is interesting. I think... Yeah, okay, so we're just full on coal. That's great. Great news. We have lots of coal. It will be nice, and I don't think we can afford the investment quite yet, but it will be nice when we have the ability to store these outputs, not just in the machine, because as you see it gets backed up, but to actually output them to dedicated storages. For example, for coal, for limestone, there you are. We don't want rock or dirt to be backing us up, so we'll probably need to add these here as well. Finally, each of these will need, well, we need to rearrange this. As we said, that one's dirt, right? So we'll do dirt. This one was limestone, so we'll do limestone. You can see these outputs go here, right? We'll do coal here and rock here. These will connect. and minimize the requirement for trucks, as well as giving ourselves a bit more of an extended buffer here. There's a decent amount of internal storage here, but we're going to roughly double it for each of these resources once we're able to afford that. Boy, do we ever need construction parts. I'm wondering if it makes sense to pause our construction parts too. Not really, because what we want to do, now that I think about it, is start to upgrade these. These are assemblers, right? We also, when we unlocked construction parts 2, unlocked assembly 2. What's the difference? Well, assembly 1 takes 4 people, 4 workers, 40 kilowatts of power, and it makes the recipes we've already seen. Assembly 2 takes another 50% of people, goes from 4 to 6. It takes maintenance, which we have the ability to handle, but this would be obviously a move from 0 maintenance to 2, and it doubles the power requirement. What do we get for that? Well, if you look at the 2 recipes here, the recipes between the 2 of these, you can see it's doubled. It doubles the throughput in the same building. So, for the same footprint and for fewer people than 2 assemblies, we're able to make have 2 machines in 1, right? So we would like to do that, let's say here, for example. Unity build, as you saw, to sort of speed up this example. But once it's built now, our throughput doubles. And in fact, because we are still boosting it, this is 4 times that basic construction parts recipe, right? Making 6, well, making 24. This is why Unity's powerful. This is why we want to upgrade particularly key parts of our manufacturing process. I'm going to speed this up too, because this is taking a little while, and we have the resources, I think, to handle this. More power, more Unity, more people. We have all of those things. Let's increase our research pace. Let's sketch out what our construction parts manufacturing setup is going to look like. Let's do this a little bit more forward thinking, right? Let's just start by slapping down the machines that we want. Let's work backwards from, well, we want to make construction parts too. In the longer run, I'd love to be making a lot of these, right? That's the whole point. We're upgrading the production. So let's just see, I don't know, maybe we want 4. I think that when you upgrade any sort of production, you should probably at least be looking to triple your current production. Otherwise, it's not really an upgrade. You're just sort of expanding. So I think we're going to start build 4, but we're going to build this in such a way that it's expandable beyond that if we'd like, because we don't really know exactly how much we're going to need. And rather than, requiring yourself to be a perfect projection genius, you can just make your life a lot easier by making it so you can add more when you need more. All right, so if we're going to make 4 of these, that means we're going to need, quite a few construction parts 1s, right? Because this is a 2-to-1 production. Good news, we're overflowing on potatoes. This is fine. It just means we're making more than we can store. So, if we need 12 construction parts for every 6, what does one of these guys look like making instead one of these? Great. So, this is actually a 1-to-1, right? Because these are both assembly 2s, we can make 12 construction parts here, and wouldn't you know, that's exactly how many we need here. Now, this doesn't leave us any leftover construction parts 1, which we are still going to need, but I'll show you how the conditional logic will make that a little bit easier for us when we build that out in a moment. All that to say, we need 1 of these for each of these. This is not the final layout, I'm just getting everything on the ground. So, our construction parts 1 are one of our inputs. In fact, let's just make a little bit more room here. We still need electronics too. Well, electronics 1, comma, also. Electronics, you can make 12 in an assembly too. We don't need 12, we need 6. So we actually only need 2 of these in order to match up these inputs here. Great. Now, we're also going to need storages on the front end and on the back end. We'd like to store, well, both construction parts 2 and construction parts 1, right? Makes sense. We'd also like to know if they're ever empty, because that would be a bummer, and we would need to handle that. We also need inputs. Balancers, about to be important. These inputs need to be wood. They need to be iron. Let's keep these full, right? Keep these full. Let me know if you are empty. And we need concrete, slabs. Same thing. Let me know if you're empty. These are the 3 inputs for construction parts 1. We also need the same inputs for electronics, copper, and rubber, though. Okay. Obviously, this is not arranged properly, but this is how I build a module. I slap down the buildings that I need, making sure that I'm accounting for all the inputs and all the outputs, and I have the ratios correct. Now, we arrange them, right? So, let's arrange these in a way that allows us to keep building out if we need to expand, right? Let's move our electronic setup out of the way for a moment and just start out by building our first stage, construction parts 1, right? Oh, I still want lifts. I'm actually going to redirect us. I want lifts first for our inputs, and then we'll queue up this fella afterwards. Great. Okay, so what we want to do is set up, let's talk about balancers. We want to set this up so that if we, for example, want to prioritize making the basic construction parts, we're able to do that. But we're also able, if we want to flow these into construction parts 2. So how do we do that? Well, we can use a balancer and prioritize. So for example, if I want to connect here and here, I want to connect all of these. Basically, these are the 2 outputs now that I can choose to prioritize. So I can say, for example, only feed the construction parts 2 manufacturing if this is full. That's how this reads. It will always prioritize if there is space to do so, dumping parts into this storage. When this storage is full and this belt backs up, it will then allow to start dumping what is being produced into the construction parts 2 manufacturing. Now you see why we wanted that conditional logic. That means that we don't have to create twice this, just so that we always have machines in order to feed these. We can decide how we want to go between the 2. If we ever want to expand, we certainly can, but this gives us flexibility built into the initial design. Okay, so this requires construction parts 1 and electronics. Let's talk about getting the electronics set up here. Now, where do we want to position this? I don't want it out here, because when we decide, oh, I'd like to expand our production, I want to be able to add these in the same row out here, just sort of connect up the belts, and be able to expand the production without having to tear down and rebuild anything. So our expansion is going to be in this direction. That means that all of our inputs, the things that are not going to change, should probably be over here, right? This also allows us to have sort of everything facing this, emerging road, let's call it, right? We will probably want to make, an explicit road here, but also potentially train tracks, etc. So we're going to leave like a decent amount of open area here. And in fact, I might even move it back slightly further. You'd rather have too much space than not enough. This also means, right, like if this is the frontage to the road, like we'll be able to just interact with the storages, and everything production-wise and belt-wise will be out of the way in the back. So similarly, there we go. We want this here, and we want a pretty similar belt setup here as well. I'm going to do it immediately. But spoiler alert, these are the most important or the most complex version of construction parts we can build now, but there's a construction parts 3, as well as a 4, and so on and so forth. So we want this to have future-proof ability to be prioritized in the same way as our construction parts 1. That means that we'd also need to make a module for that. So this would be construction parts 3, construction parts 4. So we're going to reserve this area as well. So we're not going to build our electronics there. So where does that leave us? Where should we put our electronics? It's an interesting question. I think what we'll do is the following. Since this is all in one area, let's actually make our own electronics specific module right next door. This is going to make electronics not just for our construction parts, although it will feed through a long belt directly into them. This is also going to have its own output. Right, call it, I don't know, here. Because if we're going to make this expandable as well, we'd like to keep this all sort of parallel, conceptually, to our construction parts modules. Same thing, right? Okay, this is enough just to keep our construction parts going, but you know what? We kind of need more electronics for other stuff. So why not just already be thinking about that here? So I'm going to flip the direction, that's it, because we want the output to be able to flow this direction. With that in mind, I think I'm also going to switch like this, which will be our electronics storage. This is copper in. So what we're going to do, again, using priority balancing, we're going to say, okay, yes, we need to be able to store, and okay, yes, we need to be able to feed construction parts. And it'll go off this direction. We'll finish this later. What are you doing? Oh, you're refueling? Coming back from refueling. Yeah, we should get fuel trucks going soon. Okay, so how are we going to feed all of these? It's probably time to start on the belt work. We need the lifts to finish it, but we can start on it. Let's get our priority output here. Same thing. Let's work backwards. This will be our input. We can then connect these all together to a manifold output. Checking quickly our throughput. Okay, so if we're putting 24 onto this belt, well, this belt can handle 60. Great, no problem. Not a bottleneck. And then we are going to prioritize storage. Not that there's going to be anything other than a blueprinted reminder here for us that we are going to expand this. That's good news. And then let's do the same thing over here. And in fact, you know what's kind of fun? Because we set it up this way, we can basically just copy paste the entire thing. There's going to be overlap here, which means it'll be, you know, it won't create a second balancer. You just copy paste. It's the same thing, right? It just takes the outputs of 4 assembly 2s, merges them together, and enters them in here. Lovely. Very nice. Okay. Then we need to make sure that this feeds into all of these, right? How we're going to do that, I'm going to leave a little bit of space here. You'll see why in a moment. But then it'll do a little feed in here for all of these. Lovely. Now they all have one of their inputs. The other we'll take care of as soon as this lift's research finishes. And we can do something similar over here. You know what? And this isn't going to make sense for a very long time, but I'm actually going to flip these because this is going to turn into steel in the longer run. We're going to use it for a few other things. So I want it to come around. Okay. Flat. I want you to come out at least 2. Actually, yeah, what we're going to do, this is me doing totally micro adjustments that are not entirely necessary for optimizing, but I like things when they're pretty and organized. So this goes here, this goes here, this goes here, this goes here. I try to keep the same lines and the same sort of orientation on these modules. It's functional in either way. I just find it easier visually to organize that way. Oh, it doesn't like that we have a connector here right at the edge, does it? That's okay. Change that. We can change this. Yeah. How do we want to do this? We're going to switch the directions on this. Bring this out here and connect this here. It's a little convoluted. It's also fine. Okay. Electronics. Oh, we got our lifts. Cool. Let's talk about lifts. So, lifts are great. They are one of the issues with belts. So let's show you the problem. If we want to bring belts up, right? We totally can, and that's great. That'll help us when we try to connect these here. You've probably already noticed I'm not going to be able to intersect, you know, this incoming electronics belts over this one, right? It tries to go up and over, and you know, you can do that, but the thing is with belts, their slope at which they are comfortable going up or down is not very flexible. So the issue is when you try to jam this all in together, it's really hard to get, particularly with 3 inputs, you know, this nicely latticed overlapping set of belts that doesn't like completely spaghettify the area. So what lifts do, which is super convenient, is they elevate with a better slope. So in order to go basically just one step up, right, from basically this area, in order to go up at a way that I can actually contain to this straight line rather than having to bend around awkwardly, you get an increase in the slope. So instead of taking 3, it takes 2. Doesn't sound like a lot. It gets way better when you realize that you can, using F to convert them, you can, when you click once, increase exactly how high or low you're asking them to go. Now the slope difference is ridiculous. You have any idea how long it would take to get a belt that high? it doesn't even do it. It's crazy. So lifts are a great addition to the game recently. I am a huge fan. The UI is a little unintuitive. You have to click once from here to place it. Initially, it hasn't finished placing, but I'm moving my mouse around. This is where, using E and Q, you can raise or lower, just as you would with a belt, exactly how high you want it to go. Then you place it. Now, if I wanted to get another lift going, normally, something like this, I would just copy paste the building. If you copy paste a lift and then place it again, you don't get to adjust it. It only copy pastes at that height. That's a little unintuitive. It's totally fine to work with once you understand it, but it does take a moment. So for example, I can copy paste this guy, and I'm holding shift to do it several times, because who cares? I want it to be the exact same height in each of these spaces. I want it to be the exact same orientation. Same thing here. Typically you can flip, right? But when you do this here, you can actually flip in or out, not just rotating. You can say in, low, high, out versus in, high, low, out. That's different too. Okay. Anyway, with all of these, what we're able to do now is, in a much tighter way, bring our electronics tube over. And in the same set of cells, but at a slightly higher height, we're now able to, in a nice, tidy, compact way, bring in our other input. Wow, you're really stressing out about making things marginally more compact, I hear you saying. You're absolutely correct. Let's show you why it's more important with 3 inputs. So I am going to copy paste the same thing over here. We're going to do this here, here, and here. We're going to create another one now that's at a higher height. We have to do this from the menu directly again because we can't adjust the height once we've copy pasted it. We'll do this like this. Okay. This makes a much bigger difference over here. Go, go, go. Come on now. Keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4. Finally. One, 2, 3, 4. This is such a tidier set of manifolded entries than it would have been if we had to go, again, because you have, with a third input, you have to go up 2 heights all the way out to here. We've actually kind of trimmed how long the idealized input sort of space would be by about half. So it allows you to make much tighter modules, which I really appreciate. The other thing I'm going to do is I kind of just dislike aesthetically, purely aesthetically, the way that these look. So I'm actually going to replace them with lifts as well. So because we can just quickly get to that height like this, we'll go here. And then same thing here, but 1 higher, right? And now we're connected. It's just a lot tidier, and it leaves us this space to work with if we ever want it for anything else. And now that we have all of our pieces, I guess we should make our connections here, right? Using the same general concepts. So the reason we left 2 here in each of the initial setups is so that there's space for those lifts. So we want basically here to be our input, here, here, here. Then we'll do this, 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 this. Neat. Here, guess we'll do the same as over here. 1, 2. Come on now. Come over this way. I'm toggling R, by the way, to snap or not if I want it to go somewhere. That's a helpful thing to do. And now you have the same nice tidy setup. Set this up like this. Okay. Now we have our inputs, our outputs, our priority logics, etc. Let's see if we can't tighten this up a little bit. This is the last thing I try to do when I've built these modules. Once everything's in place, how can we make this a little bit less space intensive? I know it doesn't matter right now. We have all the space in the world, but that will not always be true. In fact, it'll stop being true pretty quickly here. Let's pause this. What I'd like to do is, for example, let's tighten this direction up as much as possible. Here, because we have to use, or have chosen to use, these lifts, we need this space of 2 and then merge up here, but we haven't lined these up. So in order to keep all of these the same distance from the road, basically so the road can start on this tile here, right? We'll take out, we can just sort of cut out one layer here, or one tile's worth of belt. Same thing here. Let's see, this space all seems just really terribly utilized. And in fact, we didn't even do our outputs here. Whoops. But let's bring it so that we have continuous storage unit frontages here. We'll go like this. It's gonna be mad about the connection. I get that. That's fine. Because what we're gonna do instead is bring this. Where are you mad? Bring this here, here, and here. We still need to get our inputs, or rather our outputs, from these machines, our input to the balancer, rather. So you can see here, again, we only have one input, but we're going to prioritize our output to generalized storage. We want to only be supplying our construction parts to our more complicated construction parts once, because it goes all the way around here, once we have finished sort of fulfilling our supply to the rest of the base here. Hello there, it's me again, but like the video editor version of me. I'm time-lapsing the next couple of minutes here because I like explaining my thought process, but there just wasn't much to say for a bit. I'm iterating on our layout a bunch to cut out a couple tiles here, a couple tiles there, ultimately trying to make it as clean and compact as possible. I'm investing the time to take this setup above and beyond just good enough, because this is essentially our first forever build. We'll use this the rest of the game, which means I want it to look great. More importantly though, because we can copy and paste, it'll also be the basis for basically every future manufacturing module we build. When we need to build, for example, machine parts, we can just copy paste chunks of this module, change the assembler recipes, and voila, a new module in 10 seconds instead of 10 minutes. No reason to connect all those input belts from scratch over and over again. Time spent now to save time in the future. So sit back, relax, enjoy the music, and we'll slow back down in a moment. See you on the other side. We are back. I have gotten all of my OCD tweaks out of the way, and I have actually aligned so that it's nice and tidy the width of the necessary storage boxes that will be the front of our road, kind of going in and out of town, along with the modules here. So as we expand, either making more construction parts 1, electronics, or construction parts 2, right? We'll keep adding machines down this way. We can simply copy paste the entire thing, slap it on, connect the belts, double up our production. Nice and easy, very future-proof. As we do that, we'll keep going out this direction. This is all going to be gone in the longer run, no worries there. We will also continue to unlock additional construction part technologies. So we'll make a pretty similar module over here for construction parts 3. Construction parts 2 will feed into that. And we will also have to add some steel to that, and then so on and so forth for additional ones. There'll be other inputs, not just the construction parts. We'll be able to slot that in. Going this direction, I think we will be able to fit everything to roughly here. So in our minds, we're going to box that space. But this is the foundations of our entire game-long construction parts setup. And that's why I was being so, let's say, particular about it, is this is our first really permanent production that we've built, which is super exciting. I'm actually pretty pleased with it. It's a nice milestone in the game. So let's start, unpause the game, start to produce it, actually build it. We'll need the storages for the electronics. Let's say the first 2 assemblers. You know what? Actually, we're going to say the first assembler. This is all going to take a lot of construction parts, and including construction parts 2, which we don't make enough of yet. That's the whole reason we're doing this. But we are going to need to make all of these, aren't we? Yep. Okay. We're just going to make the first electronics, which will supply the first 2 construction part 1 assemblers, as well as we'll need all of their inputs, of course. So we'll let that all build. We're going to let the rest of this sit for now, but we'll start to build each of these out a little bit further, stepwise. Of course, these are mad because they don't have any inputs yet, but that's what our trucks are for. They'll bring all of that over shortly. Our poor, heroic construction parts 1 assembler is still cranking out what we need to build all of this. This fella's doing all right too. We need more of him. In fact, why don't we Unity boost him, even though it's gonna take more of this. So, fine. Fortunately, this should also continue to clear out our shipyard. And that should make more room for this, and we'll finally be able to get our boat going again. So, exciting stuff. Let's let the game run for a bit and watch this get built, because there really is not much else that we need to do, not much else that we can do here. So we'll let it roll. Watch this all pop up. Let's also just grab a little bit of research here too, so we're not wasting throughput. We'll talk about these as we unlock them. Grab a couple quality of life things. Let that all get going. Right. I'm going to prioritize this just so we get our electronics rolling. The other thing I want to do right now, we haven't talked about these yet, although I have used them, so I apologize for that. These settings are actually super powerful. This means that you can have a truck drop off whatever the inputs are, regardless of its logistics setup. This option says trucks can bring stuff, but only if the belts and pipes can't. This one forbids it entirely. This can be helpful, especially early in the game, but generally speaking, I like to set these up so that the only way that a machine gets its inputs is via the belts, because it's really annoying to come across something and realize, oh, this has been supplied by trucks for like 10 years because I never realized the belts weren't working, and the trucks just propped it up really inefficiently. That's the worst. So I want to know there's a problem right away, rather than having an inefficient band-aid slapped on it. Same thing with outputs. I only want this to go to the belts so that there are no trucks draining the machine when it's full. I only want trucks to interact with our storages, inputs and outputs accordingly. Ooh, all right, that's great news. Our mine tower is not working. It's not great news that it's not working. It's not working though because of great news, which is that we have made some progress on our terraforming here. So let's give it a little bit more to work with. And in fact, let's just tell it, have at it. Push out here. All the way up to there. We want to be able to build our city a little bit further. Oh, we actually don't want this. Yeah, no, we do. We do, but it's going to be empty, unfortunately, for a minute. But this is great. More wood consumption will keep our deforestation going. We are making enough iron for now, although we'll have to reinforce that for sure. This will burn through some of our rubber and copper. And we have electronics being made. I would also like... Yeah, brilliant. Okay, look at this. Our boat, it's finally empty. Look at all this. We have made space. Let's send the boat back out there. Get after it. Okay. This feels good. We have unclogged some of our setup here. Oh, and this is nearly done too. Wonderful. This is... Construction parts are really adding up. Lovely. This is good. We are transitioning away from our initial, you know, oh no, don't don't run out of things, you know, shoelaces, shoestrings setup, into something that's a little bit more resilient, a little bit more robust, a little bit more powerful in the longer run here. So as this all gets developed, we are going to feel a lot better about our ability to do things and not simply sort of skate through. So this has been a fun one. We have, what all have we actually done here, right? So we've gotten our boat going. We've started exploring the map. Isn't that great? We're continuing to explore the map. We're continuing to get resources, rewards, and information for doing so. Pretty cool. We have also cleared out a lot of space. There were trees in this area. Now we're able to expand in pretty much every direction. We've also gotten our terraforming up and running, which is great because that will give us further room. It's the second pass of clearing after the trees are gone. So we've done a lot of groundwork, pun intended, I guess, to get ourselves set up for the future. We also have our coal mine up and running. And we are so full on people that we've paused the beacon. So we're in a pretty good spot going forward, which you like to see. And especially once this whole setup is up and running, we're going to be feeling pretty good about where we are. What are we going to need to do next time? Well, we just added a whole bunch of power requirements. As you can see, we're already pretty close up there. In fact, let's just real quick slap another one of these down here. We won't build it right away, but we'll know that it's there. We are also, once this is all going to be able to clean some of this up and either use it for other purposes or just take the space back. We still need to get copper up and running, and this is now starting to be a problem. That's got to be the headline next time, I think. And once that's up and going, we can start talking about, what else should we be thinking about? We can move up to the better concrete recipe, which we have unlocked but have not yet taken advantage of. And we can start to do things like supplying water to our entire town, start building a proper farming setup with irrigation, and really start leveling up the other parts of our base. All of that will be enabled by the fact that we'll actually be producing a good amount of construction parts 1 and 2 in order to actually keep building things. So a pretty good, pretty productive one here, I think. This has really set the stage for us to shift gears upwards next time, which is super fun. Looking forward to it. Be sure to tune in if you enjoyed this one. You'll definitely enjoy the next one. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.